Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're finally back in home base, echo base, whatever you want to call it. Um, the Jedi Temple, whatever. Um, Today I want to cover a range of things. I do want to talk about Ahsoka. I want to talk about Ahsoka season 2 and the things I'm looking forward to it. That's mainly what this is for. And then I'll check and see if we have news or anything if I run out of, things to talk about. But I don't think I will because there's a lot to unpack. So, over the past week or so, maybe a little more, I've been rewatching Ahsoka season 1. Just because I thought about it and I was like, you know, I'm gonna give this another watch, because at first I really liked it, and then when I saw the flaws, it made me kind of mad, and I was like, I got brainwashed by the whole, everything has to be, 100% perfect in every, like, I started over analyzing and things lost. I started forgetting that this is an art form and that there's reasons why these things are done in order to further the story. And I started becoming too analytical, and it's just bad. And it's bad. And then when you have everyone, around you basically saying the same thing, and like, oh, if you think this about this show, then you're, fake and you're a fraud and you're betraying George and you're this and that, and then all that gets to your head and you're like, you get fucked up, So I think I let that get to me too much, and I didn't really appreciate the amount of kind of elements that are just so great from a lot of these shows and stuff and just pieces that I just missed because I was so hyper fixated on other things, and I didn't see the beauty in a lot of this. Ahsoka, I never disliked it. I just thought the ending was not good, and just like with Sabine doing the thing, and so I wouldn't even say the ending. Just I really disagreed strongly with some creative decisions, and I thought the show was just kind of ruined by those decisions. But it's not, which is why I encourage you to rewatch things that you kind of have a feeling you might like or you are kind of curious about, right? That you want to revisit, because when you do, sometimes your opinion completely shifts, right? Like, I rewatched Ahsoka, and I absolutely love the show. I absolutely love every second of it. I'm going to be honest with you. The only thing that really pisses me off, still, not really pisses me off, but the only thing that I just really think they could have avoided and not done was Sabine getting stabbed. And it's just so unrealistic that she just walked away from that, like, just perfectly. Like, that was stupid. I know why they did it from a marketing standpoint, because they wanted to hook people into the next episode, because like, oh no, what's going to happen to Sabine? I'm going to click the next episode. That's why they did it. However, I think it's really dumb from a storytelling standpoint, from a Star Wars standpoint. That was really dumb. I'm going to call that out. However, the rest of the show was, I mean, it's the best looking Star Wars show, easily. It's not even close. It is not even close. I mean, there's nothing. It's just one of the best looking TV shows I've ever seen, and I've seen so many TV shows. I mean, it looks like a freaking movie. For TV, how they usually scale it, that, like, they don't use, the level of cinema cameras that they use to shoot a movie. They didn't used to. Like when narrative TV shows first became a thing, and when HBO first became a thing. You watch Breaking Bad, it doesn't look good. The first season doesn't look good, and it's shot on it's just doesn't look great. Then you look at the more modern shows and you see The Mandalorian was actually the one to start integrating cinema technology into TV. which is why so many of the newer shows just look so good because they've started to do that. Game of Thrones as well was a big show that really pushed TV forward. However, Ahsoka just it looks like the highest quality like there is in existence. The lighting is so good, right? Like it feels so natural and real. And sometimes like especially in the modern day, they use all these practical suits and these, practical sets and all this, but then the lighting's off and I can tell when the background's digital and when the foreground's practical. And that really bothers me. And that happens on I think Mando season 3, that was really rough. Like this fight between Gideon and Bo-Katan and Din and Grogu, that fight was like I could tell the background was digital. Like it was flat, it had no dimension to it. It just didn't work. Because what did they do? They just built the set and then they didn't light it properly to blend the background and the foreground and everything together and the set and the costumes together. They didn't do that. On Ahsoka, there are lots of, obviously it's Star Wars, there's lots of digital backgrounds, usages of the volume, but they blend it in a way that makes it work, right? Like it just works so much better. And then the lighting is so well done that like it doesn't pull you out of the screen. Like the characters look like they're there. There's no weirdness ever. Especially the 7th episode, there's this grittiness to the screen that's there. And I know a lot of the super film styles will be like, it's colorless, it's flat. It's like, it's not, it's gritty. You see all the colors. You see the popping red of those like Peredia scavenger warriors, the ones that kind of go back. They look like medieval Japan a little bit, the armor back then, but which is cool. And Dave loves Kurosawa, and there's so much Kurosawa all over that show. I mean, it's like you just see it everywhere, where the visuals tell the story the whole time, and there is really intense color too. But yeah, that episode, it's the scene where the Noti, Ezra and Sabine, they're in that little thing and they're going, and then the warriors are chasing behind them firing. And there's this grittiness to the world, the gray clouds, and the lighting just reflects so good on their face. Like, it's just such masterful art. The cinematography, like Quayan Tran, I don't know what else that person has done, but like, holy fuck. Like that, I mean, let's see. Yeah, she is like so phenomenal, dude. Because all of her work in that show is just so good. Especially there's the scene where they I guess there's multiple of these scenes where Morgan Elsbeth uses the Night Sister magic on the map, and then it projects outwards and it like surrounds Balin and Shin, and they're like looking at it. That is like just beautiful. Or any of the shots of Cetos where they show like it's the establishing shot of the forest and it's all the like bright red, maroon, blood red trees, and juxtaposed with the sky, and it feels like a National Geographic documentary. And then you go into the forest and it's this super beautifully smooth pan, and you just see the leaves falling, and then you see Ahsoka's T6 just sitting still in nature, flowing with the natural environment. Like, the cinematography of this series is beyond human comprehension. That is how... I ain't even glazing, I'm just telling the truth. I am just telling the truth. Like, it is so good looking. That's number 1. Number 2, the story, phenomenal. Ahsoka's arc in this show and her growth is done so well done. It's so well done. I mean, she goes from this isolated... I wouldn't say hopeless, but like she's lost a lot of that spark that she once had. You can tell. And a lot of the people, when the show first came out, they were complaining this is one thing I never complained about. They were complaining that, her acting was too dry and that she had no emotion. I'm like, that's what 30 years or however many years of war does to you, and you losing people, and you realizing your master is Darth Vader, and all these things, and then realizing he died, and all, there's all sorts of these things that people don't take into account, and they just rush to the fact of oh, it's bad. It's like, you don't understand the context. There's so much that's gone into her character. Of course she's here. It's not like what they did with Luke, or some would argue, I think it worked, but some would argue in Dial of Destiny, Indiana Jones was just thrown into a pit. She wasn't really at the pit. Like, she's still fighting, she's still doing her thing, but she's definitely very down, and not she's had a lot of personality in Clone Wars, and you can tell that that's kind of fizzled out. And that she's very just kind of alone. She's lonely. And she knows she made a mistake by, throwing Sabine out, and Sabine has rejected her, and, she just feels like there's no one there, and there's nothing for her, and that she's just fighting for nothing, practically, for other than this mission of making sure the remnant doesn't come back, but that's so external. There's nothing driving her internally anymore. She just feels dead. And then that misery, that mistrust gets her killed. Balin's skull, right? And her master confronts her and brings her back to life. Anakin resuscitates her soul, resuscitates her spirit, and forces her to, not really forces her, but basically gives her one last chance. You either live or you die. And that's more of a symbolic statement than literal, right? So what does she choose? She chooses to live. She chooses to choose life, to choose to live the Jedi way, to open her mind, to not be so closed, narrow-minded. Because to be honest, she was extremely narrow-minded in the beginning of the show, because that's where her character was. She's like, you know what? No, why would I think about this way? Because clearly, she just was very pessimistic. And then she goes through this trial with her master that wakes her soul back up, which brings her back to life. And then what happens? Her costume changes. It went from this dark gray to now this bright white, symbolizing, her resuscitation to life through a brighter color, So even through the costuming change, you saw her soul was reborn. It's like, and it's almost like a baptism, literally. She gets tossed in the water, dies, and when she rises back up from the water, she's anew, and her spirit is brought back to life. It very much, and she's now fully reconnected with the Force, reconnected with her master, right? Reconnected with everything that she once knew and lost along the way. So that 5th episode is one of the best episodes just I've ever seen of anything. And the 6th episode, which I'll get to in a minute. It brings her back to life, right? So that's Ahsoka's character, right? And then obviously she continues to learn. She meets Ezra. She reunites with Sabine at the end. Like, it's a full circle story, amazing character arc. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with her character arc. Literally nothing. That's Ahsoka. Then you go to Sabine. People complain she's too annoying. She's too this. She's too that. She's too emo. Ezra Bridger was her only family, really. Because Hera and Kanan, all of them, like, she loved them, right? But they started their own family. Like, Hera and Kanan, like, they had Jason, and they're friends, or family friends, but it's not the same as family. There's a very big difference. And for Sabine, Ezra was in a very similar place as her. Like, they just were kind of out there alone. They didn't have anyone. And then they found each other, and they were like best friends. They were family, And then he was gone. And then just like that, her family's gone. She has no family anymore. So she was, she felt alone. And then Ahsoka came along and she was like, I'm going to train you. And then that brought Sabine's kind of liveliness back. Then what happens? Ahsoka dumps her because Ahsoka's too scared and thinks Sabine's this monster. So now she's like, great, they think I'm a monster. I lost my family. Now I'm done. And she was just living. It's a very similar arc as Ahsoka, and she's just living, and it takes her a lot. She fights Shin, and she's like, realizes there's a chance to save my family, and that's what drives her throughout the whole show, is finding Ezra Bridger. She cuts her hair, right? She puts her armor back on, and she's like, that family, the drive to find her family is what moves her forward. So then, that blessing is also a curse. Because we get to the 4th episode. There's a catch with this whole finding Ezra thing. You might also be finding Grand Admiral Thrawn and an army of Imperials, right? So she confronts a choice, right? I can destroy this map and will keep the Empire lost, or I never see Ezra again. I never see Ezra again, right? And I'm just gone forever, and I will never have family. Or I can save the map, and I can get Ezra, and maybe we can stop them too. And Sabine is very much, she's Sabine. She's rebellious. She has an attitude. She has very in the emotions. Definitely some of that like Anakin kind of energy, right? Like she's angsty. So of course her emotions are going to tell her to do one thing, which is get Ezra. I need him, right? It's like the I need it's the same thing, but I need him. And she just is like, no, fine. I'll if you're going to get me to Ezra, I can't. Right? Then she realizes eventually, bro, like what did I do? Then she finds Ezra, and she's ashamed to tell him the entire show about what happened. Fucking ashamed. She does not want to tell him. So I risk the fate of the whole galaxy to get you. Right? So then slowly, through this whole, her arc is, I think, the most complex throughout the show. Then, eventually through all of this, Ahsoka and Sabine butt heads a lot in the beginning, and then eventually, Sabine throughout her journey has learned that the Force is her ally, and that she can do this. And it's this journey of self-belief as well, of like, you told me I couldn't do anything. I can't even lift a cup. And then slowly, the more she trusts the Force, has faith in the Force, even though her use is limited, she trusts the Force, has faith in the Force, right? She slowly is able to use it more. Slowly able to trust it more. She finds Ezra. He not directly, indirectly teaches her things. She sees how he says, no, I don't want my lightsaber. I'm gonna just trust the Force. The Force is my ally. She's struggling to fight 2 of those guys. Well, he's just taken down a bunch of them with Force pushes, with tosses, with grabs. He doesn't even have a weapon. She has 2 blasters, a lightsaber, and Mandalorian armor, and he's doing better than her. That's a lesson in itself. Yeah. So he destroys them, but then also, he's not this all-powerful being. So what happens? Shin just shoves him into one of the Nodi's vehicles, knocks him out, right? Which was a good, humbling experience. Like, that was kind of egotistical, right? Like, you should defend yourself, but I was just like, no, I'll take that risk because I'm, and then he gets humbled. So there's another lesson, right? Like, this writing is so good. Like, you just don't... don't understand. Like, it's so well done, and it hits at just the right moments, right? Right when you're like, okay, Ezra's great, but like he's not all. Then he gets back up though, because he's Ezra. I love Ezra a lot. He gets back up and he's back to fighting, and he's using the Force again, right? Like, it's not like he just got humbled a little bit. And then Sabine, same thing. She gets humbled a lot. The whole show was her. She goes through more in the first 2 episodes of this show than Rey does in all 3 films. Like, she's a good character. She's obviously kind of annoying, but it's intentional. She has to learn and grow to become less annoying. And then through this, there's the infamous moment of the push across the Star Destroyer, right? And it's like, think about it. It's one Force push is her big use of the Force. One Force push. And it makes sense if you think about it, right? Because everything she's fighting for, her whole cause is at risk right here. Because if she misses, not only does she lose Ezra, but also there's no one to fight this Empire, and she loses Ezra and the Empire gets away. So lose. I mean, everything is in this. And I'd argue it's more driven by her care and love for Ezra than anything else. And all in one moment, all these things are coming in her, are swirling in her head. And she's like, I have to, and she pushes him across. Boosts him up, actually. It's not even a push across, it's a boost up. And then he can, guide himself for the rest. But it makes sense, and that's it. That's her one big moment, and that's symbolizes her growth throughout the show, is trusting the Force. Trusting those around you and continuing to love those around you, whatever. Then her and Ahsoka, Ahsoka retakes her as her apprentice, and they go off together at the end of the show, where she'll be trained more. So she goes through an amazing, very complex character arc, right? Ezra begins a new journey. I wouldn't say he goes through this crazy character arc, but he begins to be a bigger part of the picture again, right? Because he's just been isolated on this planet for 5 years. So now, that he's able to continue his master's legacy, right? He builds his master's saber, kind of his own saber, but very akin to his master's. And he's the only one of them to be able to go back to the main galaxy and unite with the New Republic. So he's their only hope at that point. He's the only one that knows what's going on. He's the only one that's seen anything. He's the only one who might know how to stop any of this, right? Like, he is the hope, right, for them. So he's started this new journey of heroism that is on a much larger scale than anything else he's done, which he already saved the entire galaxy once. And then he's not the entire galaxy, that's too much, but he stopped one of the biggest imperial leaders in the entire galactic empire. The most smart, cunning, ruthless one there is. Gone because Ezra Bridger. Now he's back to do the same thing. Save the galaxy, right? Like, he's just embarked on a new journey of heroism. That's his arc. Hera is more of a guide, more of like a, parental figure to all these characters, throughout the show. Like, I think Yeah, because she really is. She is like the parental figure to Sabine and to Ezra, and then obviously Jason. So she's more of that kind of guide of like keeping people in line and making sure things are right. She's the only communication between what's going on in the New Republic, so she's vital there of like, being like, this is what's happening, and she fights for, the New Republic to take the cause seriously, because if it weren't for her, they would get no aid from the New Republic until Thrawn showed up, right? And then eventually she got her mission cleared by Leia, which is cool, off screen, of course, but it shows the original trilogy characters are kind of at the top. She got her mission cleared and whatever. So now we're at this point in the show, and Jason is growing in his abilities to slowly become a Jedi, and you see that teased, which makes me wonder if he'll maybe be involved. This is a stretch, but it would make a lot of sense for him to be involved with that the post Rise of Skywalker world, because he'd be the perfect age to be like part of the new Jedi Order and whatever. So it's painted this big beautiful picture, and I haven't gotten to my favorite character in the show yet. Obviously, this Anakin is the guy, right? Disregarding it, yeah, like the new, you know what I'm saying? Anakin's here. That greatness is like, eh. But my favorite new character in the show, my favorite, I don't even know. Because technically all these characters have already existed, but like, my favorite character in the show besides Anakin, in the simplest, most dry terms there is. But yeah, throughout all of the heroes' arcs, right, they go and they move the whole fucking franchise forward. They move everything in a great direction for the brand. The characters progress in a good way. They're not being destroyed or molested like they do in a lot of other projects, right? So it goes in a good direction. And then now, where are we? Baylan Skull. I think this is what I'm most looking forward to in Ahsoka Season 2, is Baylan Skull's character and where he's going to end up more than anything else. Like, that's what I'm looking forward to. I really, because it's taking Star Wars in a direction it has never been before. And that's where I think Disney's starting to go, is the unknown, which is really good. That is really good. Because they spent way too much time in the already known and spent way too much time being too careful in the already known. And now they're like, finally, with Dave's leadership, with Josh D'Amaro, finally, I guess, allowing them to be more risky, we're switching directions, which is, thank God. Because, like, Ahsoka is what Star Wars needs. That is it. That's what Star Wars needs to continue to grow as a brand. And it's a very popular show, whether people know it or not. All over Instagram, all over social media, edits of that show, edits of scenes of that show, all over the place. It's the most talked about thing. Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati are the two most talked about new characters outside of maybe Kylo Ren, right? Like in Din Djarin, right? And Grogu. Like, he is up there with, like, the best new Star Wars characters. Like, he is. So anyways, it's moving stuff forward a lot. This guy is the pinnacle of the next season, because he is chasing something that no one has sought for. This new power. We don't know what it is, right? And they left it ambiguous. We saw him last standing on the hand of the Father with the son and the daughter next to him, right? Obviously, sculpted statues, right? But that's a big deal. He is going beyond what the Empire sees, beyond what the Jedi see, beyond what the Sith see, beyond. He thinks there's a solution to all of this chaos in the galaxy, this endless cycle of rebellion, empire, or empire, rebellion, republic, empire, rebellion, republic, right? Like it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going, and it just won't stop. And he's like, I think I have the answer to this. And that's his quest. And it also presents a really interesting argument of morality, right? Because he isn't this evil guy. He just has this very specific mission in mind, and anyone who gets in his way, he is going to knock out of his way, no matter what it takes. He always tries to start out peaceful. He walked onto that New Republic ship. You know, he knew, he's smart. He knows it's not going to work, but he always offers diplomatic peace, diplomatic solution. He's like, hey, I want to see this prisoner. And the New Republic guy's like, no, you think, he's this know-it-all. He's like, you think I'm going to believe that 2 Jedi, a few of them are left? You're just Imperials. Arrest them. Why? Because he had no other choice. Same thing with Ahsoka. He didn't want to kill Ahsoka. He told Morgan Elsbeth, to her surprise, right? She doesn't know shit. She's just a little pawn. But, he was like, oh, it would be, this is unfortunate that I have to take her down. She's one of the last of their kind left, and he had a lot of respect for her, and he didn't want to necessarily kill her. He tried just talking to her. But of course, the Jedi are very, how they are. And he was like, left with no other choice. So. Then what happens? He thinks Sabine killed Shin. He's like, okay, this has gone too far. You killed my apprentice. You killed my... Right? So none of it is driven out of hatred or necessarily anything of that matter, or vengeance, or anything of that. He wants the galaxy to change. And he wants this power to make it change, right? Which leads him to this place, to Peredia, to, So what does he do? He uses the Empire to get there, right? And then, because he knows of the tales, he knows of the myths and the legends that none of the Jedi took seriously, but he did. And he now is there, and he's almost close to finding what he needs, right? Which we don't know what it is. But then it also, he's not just a hero, he's not just some anti-hero, not some Dark Knight. He is also a symbol of what happens when ambition takes control of your soul. Because once he's done, once he gets, let's say he gets what he wants, right? And he's free. And he is, just say, in this fantastical world. He's saved the galaxy, he's done these things. Now he's going to look back. Look what I have destroyed. Look at all the lives I've taken. Right? That's not going to feel too good. That's not going to look too good. He can't really justify himself as a good guy after he's slaughtered hundreds of people and assisted the Empire, and right? Like, that's the issue with his level of ambition, is it's like destructive. It is extremely destructive, manipulative, and wrong. Right? So he is not this totally good guy, and he's not this totally bad guy. And I think that's the whole point of his character, is that he's chasing something outside of what the galaxy knows. But he knows. He thinks he knows. And I think that's really more what it is he's going to think he has this magical solution to everything. But then at the end of the day, he's going to get proven wrong, maybe, and then I don't know. Or maybe he'll lead the galaxy to another planet. Like, we don't know. We don't know. It's completely ambiguous, which is why there's a season 2 that will explain and finish the story, or probably finish the story. I think Ahsoka will be done after season 2. And wrap up his story at least. Yeah, I can't imagine they do a season 3. If they do, I don't know. It would have to work, but I have a feeling season 2 will be the last one, and where he'll, go on his journey. And Ray Stevenson killed that role. Like, he was born to play that fucking character. Like, dude, so good. Obviously, he passed, I think, right before the show came out, which is really sad because he did all this press at Celebration 2023 in London. People loved him, from the start. They thought his character was cool. But he never got to see how much people love his character now that we've seen him. Right? Which is really sad. Like, he's never going to know how much we love his character, how much we love his work. So rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. Super sad, unfortunate, really just unfortunate loss. He was young too, like so young to die like that. I think it was like a heart attack or something, or some kind of thing like that. Like, it was very sudden, unexpected, really, really unfortunate. But then at the same time, they needed to finish that character's arc. Because could you imagine if Baylan Skoll's character just stopped? Like, he's on this cliff looking towards his destiny. Never see him again. Oh, he got eaten by the wolves. Do you know how, pissed I would have been? Like, dude, no. No way. So, Rory McCann has taken the massive shoes of Ray Stevenson to attempt to fill with the second season. And we've seen an image of him as Baylan Skoll in costume and everything. And I will say, he does give off a similar vibe and everything, I don't think Ray Stevenson's performance can necessarily be topped, but I think you could get close. I think you really could. And I think Rory McCann is going to do a good job. He has the same build, similar build. I don't think he's nearly as muscular and hulky as Ray Stevenson was. But he has the height. He has kind of a similar face. He has a beard. He has lots of acting talent. He was in Game of Thrones, so he's knows what he's doing. Did a great job in that show. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm not fully convinced until I see it. And I think he'd probably agree with me. Or at least people over at Lucasfilm would agree with, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Ray Stevenson's performance was so damn good that it's just hard for me to just look at some other person and have it be the same, that's just, I can't do that yet, I have to really wait and see what it's like. So yeah, and he's just cool and powerful. He's overpowered and freaking he's a beast. And his saber's awesome, with that orangish reddish hue. Just awesome. Amazing. I'm very much looking forward to his character in that show. And obviously we've gotten a lot of reports. Ewan McGregor might be joining the crew, and obviously Hayden is going to be back. And I've heard things that he's going to be back for 3 more projects. So at least, so Hayden's going to be here for quite a while. Quite a lot more of Anakin, which I love to see. And I don't know if it's in Ahsoka season 2 where they're gonna literally revitalize him, or if it's later. I made a video on it, but I forget which order it was in. But that would be a crazy radical change for Star Wars if they physically brought him back. That would be maybe that's, I don't know. Like there's I have so many questions, and that is what a good TV show does, when it leaves you with what's going to happen next. That's what a good, any kind of series does or should do. It should have a good, singular, condensed, finished story, but it should also leave a lot of questions with what's happening next to the next chapter, right? So that's how it's just well done. I mean, Dave wrote that show so well. Obviously, I think the dialogue works. I hear a lot of it's so blocky and childish, and no, it's just Star Wars dialogue, which is how Star Wars is supposed to be. It's this more Shakespearean kind of dialogue. It's not supposed to be this super grounded whatever thing. But there were some just really random, like just out of the nowhere, just corny things that were said sometimes. But again, it was very few and far between. I'm just very picky. I notice things really easily. So that was just like, I was just like, oh God, that's kind of weird. But it was just like that. But, then I rewatched the show and it's just like, I know this is there. But it's nothing that bothers me, and it's nothing that impacts how I view the show. It's just like a little like, but it's fine because the show's so fucking good. I don't care. The stab and the couple lines of not great dialogue, I don't fucking care. There's way too much to this show for me to care about little lines of dialogue and bullshit. No. Then we have the music. Kevin Kiner, this is his best work since the Clone Wars movie. I mean, he scored, maybe it's just best ever. His score in this show is fucking phenomenal. Like 10 out of 10. Like that is how you score a TV show. That's how it's done. Or any kind of visual medium. Like that's just how it's done. There's themes, recurring themes. There's obviously scoring for the environment, for the setting, setting the tone. He does that really, really well. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of memorable tracks, very memorable, I guess title sequences, the short title cards, and then the end credits is the main theme of the show. Since there isn't a title sequence in the middle of the show like there is for Daredevil or, I don't know, other TV shows. Succession. It's a very memorable theme. And a very beautiful one. I really like it a lot. It's a spin on Ahsoka's theme from Clone Wars. It's a lot more, I wouldn't say sad. It's kind of sad. Like a lot less bright and young. It's very, experienced, dark, stern, And then at the end, when her whole arc is finished, there's this really heroic, beautiful, orchestral piece, that's like the hero theme of Ahsoka, right? That plays at the end. So even through the music, you see the growth, right? But I love Balin's theme. It's so simple. It's so simple that dun 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 dun, right? Like that's it. But the way it fluctuates in key, depending on the emotion or depending on the moment, right? It's so telling of his character because he really is this just lost part of this lost tribe, and it saddens him. He's a sad in ways he's a sad old man. He really is. Like, he's seen so much, and he just has realized, you know, that his people were always doomed to fail, and like, that's just kind of his attitude. And I think that theme, the emotion behind that theme and the emotive power it has when it translates to the screen is perfect. I think that it works really well for his character. And it can be used in a menacing, badass way, like it was in the first episode, where he's like taking down the New Republic soldiers. And it can also be used in a more of a reflective, melancholy way, like it is later in the show. Or at times where he's reflecting on his, past life. You'll hear it. And then there's this really moment where it really hits, which is where it's in the 7th episode, where he's fighting Ahsoka and he just catches her arm and he just looks at her, and it's just like it. You can tell that I don't know what it is, and it doesn't make sense. It's a purely emotive thing, but like, I don't know, it just plays, just the piano just plays, and you're like, damn, bro. I don't know, like, it just hits really well. And like, it just gives off this attitude of he just really doesn't want to hurt her, but in his mind, he tells himself he has to in order to move forward, right? Like, I don't know, it's just this, it's so good. And then obviously there's Ezra's theme, which really has its moments throughout the show. The Force theme has some really good moments throughout the show. Yeah, and obviously off topic, but C-3PO shows up and does his little bit, and he's like the representative of Leia, which I thought was really cool. So our main heroes are still in the picture. They're just not at the front of the screen, I'd like to think, yet. Because at some point, Leia's going to be like, Luke, Thrawn's coming back. And I think Luke's going to get back in the fight. But obviously, he has to build the Jedi Order and do his thing. But I think when it gets to a certain point, I think he will have to come back, or else it just won't make sense. Like, oh, Thrawn's back in the galaxy and the Empire has returned. Oh yeah, I'm just going to be sitting on my little... like, he wouldn't do that. So in order for them to not continue to screw his character, he has to. He has to get up and fight Thrawn at some point. And I feel like Han would too. Obviously not as quickly as Luke, but I think Han eventually would be like, oh shit, and just kind of be like, you guys need my help for a little bit. And him and Chewie would come back. I think this could be a chance to get the whole gang together, which they're going to. If the scripts stay the same as the leaks, at least from the time of the leaks that we got, the Heir to the Empire film... Oh no, that got canceled. Was it Ahsoka season 2? I think... God damn, I need to look back at those fucking leaks, dude. Oh my gosh. Like... Were those leaks just about Ahsoka season 2? No way. No way. That would be crazy. No shot. I thought I put it in my notes. Did I not? I don't know. I have my own video on it. I'm going to pull up my own fucking video right now. But yeah, supposedly they're coming back in something, like the trio. I'm just, for some reason, forgetting how or when. I don't know why. I just am. I just have a lot in my life, and I'm just... Where is it? Blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, this is it, I think. Then I'm going to go to transcript. Oh, that's right. Dave's movie. Oh yeah. So it's not the Heir to the Emperor film anymore. They rewrote Dave's movie to have Leia and Anakin as like the main people. That's right. Which then obviously will include Luke. Oh yeah, Ahsoka season 2 was reshot to fit the plan change. Yeah. I remember this now. Okay, so basically, yes. So they'll for sure be back in that movie, but they could be back in other things in between. So basically, what was gonna happen, right? Was Ahsoka season 2, Heir to the Empire, and then that whole Mandoverse was gonna be done. All Dave did was Ahsoka season 2. He put this big gap, and then he did, uh, his movie somewhere along the way. But basically, opened up the opportunity to basically have stories after Return of the Jedi that people can enjoy who didn't like the sequels. I think that's what's happening right now. Is he's like, I don't think he would. I don't know. I can't speak for someone who isn't me in this situation when I don't totally know them really well. You know, I I don't know what he thinks about the sequels. I know he says stuff like, "Oh, it's all tales around a campfire, whatever." But I don't know what he thinks about that. I assume he's not too fond of it just because of how in the lore and in the characters he is. I don't know, but he's very clearly steering things in a different way, which will eventually have to lead back to the First Order and everything. But I think when it does get to that point, that things are going to be really different. And the story of the rise of the First Order won't be they're just pop, they're here, and pop, they're gone. Because that's how it was in the sequels. They just showed up in The Force Awakens. Didn't it fucking explain anything. They're like, oh, the First Order's risen from the ashes of the Empire. Wow, that's so... makes so much sense, guys. And then they were trying to explain it in other media, and they didn't. And they were just focusing on Imperial Remnant. It's like, they hinted at it in Mando, which was good. It helped push the story forward. But yeah, I'm curious to how they're gonna make that make sense. Like, there's a lot more Star Wars going on, guys, than you think. There is so much. I always see all the fucking media saying, "Oh, Star Wars is dead because Mando and Grogu bomb." It's like, no, you don't understand the things I know, the things other people know of what they're doing right now. Like, it is not just some, stupid. They have a plan now. They have a plan, and they're executing it. And Ahsoka is the key to all of this. If Ahsoka didn't exist, we'd be fucked. I'm just going to be so honest with you. Because I'd say they wrapped up The Mandalorian with Season 3. I think they wrapped up the character arcs. They wrapped up the story. Like, I feel like Mando and everything going on there was finished. It feels done after Season 3. I don't know. I mean, it's not it's not a preferred ending. I don't really like the way the show ended at all. I didn't really like the third season much at all, to be honest. But it does just feel done. I don't know what else they're gonna do with those characters, right? Like, that are gonna progress them and change them in order to progress and change the galaxy. Right? Like, I don't know. Which is why Mando and Grogu was just a fun adventure, because that's really all you can do with them at this point. Like, I don't know what the fuck else you're gonna do. I mean, you'd have to really put new obstacles for Din, and like, I don't know. Like, they're gonna be more, I feel like, side characters, important side characters, really cool side characters. Not to diss Din and Grogu, I love them a lot, but I think having them as the center stars of things anymore, like, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to pan out. We'll see what they do. And obviously, there's always ways to make characters grow and change and whatever. So they could, but I just don't think they will. And I think we're moving past them more to they're a good introduction to this era, and now, the Ahsoka show and everything forward will be growing it more. But yeah, dude, I'm really, really looking forward to the future of Star Wars. And then not only that, we have the stuff happening after episode 9. So what Dave is doing right now is we're gonna have two timelines that are really like going on at once. We're gonna have stuff released after episode 9 and then stuff released from, you know, Ahsoka season 2 to episode 7, you know. So that's like kind of what's going on. Or I guess The Force Awakens, if you don't want to include it in the 6 films, which I kind of don't. So The Force Awakens, you know, because it's a totally different story. You know, I could get it. You guys already know. 1 through 6 is the story of Darth Vader. Darth Vader's story ends at episode 6, therefore that can't be episode 7, right? So it's really just The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker. It's a totally different story. It's disconnected from the 6 movies. Entirely, in fact. So the only thing that people connect it through is Luke and Leia and Han, but it's like, that doesn't make it a Skywalker. Like, the fuck? It's not Darth Vader's story anymore. Like, that's the saga, bro. I don't know. It's just not logical to me. But anyways. So yeah, Ahsoka is amazing, and I'm so glad I rewatched the show, and you know, just don't get brainwashed online, okay? Just don't do it. Don't fucking do it. This doesn't excuse the errors, like I've pointed them out, but it makes you not an idiot. You know, it's like, you have this big, beautiful painting, and there's some chips in the corner that have happened through moving it around and transporting it. And all you do is focus on the chips in the corner of the painting, instead of looking at the entire painting, which is huge and massive and beautiful. You look at one chip the size of a fucking piece of dust. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like if there was a little mark right here, and instead of looking at all of this, I only looked right there at the little mark. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's was how I was, because I was so like, they're just not doing it right, that I was like trying to, you know, it's just not healthy. It's not good, and it's not healthy, and I'm so glad that I've changed, because it's made art so much more enjoyable when you're not an analytic, when you're not so fucking nitpicky about, oh, they made one mistake here. Sure, if it's the entire movie, there's constantly problems, then yeah, it's fucking bad and it didn't work. Right? Like, sorry, there are movies like that where it's just bad. They exist. But, you know, most of these Star Wars things are not that bad. I'd say The Acolyte was a special kind of bad. Like, that show was just bad. And that's the thing, is it came out after Ahsoka, and it looks 20 times worse. It's like Ahsoka's 20 years out of The Acolyte in terms of how it looks. It's ridiculous. I mean, 20 years is a really big stretch, but like 3 years ahead, you know, from compared to how The Acolyte looks. Like, it's just idiocy. Like, that show was idiocy. Fucking terrible. I hate that show. You know? I hate it. And I've made that very clear. I just don't like the fucking show. Somehow, if you manage to conjure something and you like the show, you whatever. But I really don't like the show. And that's just bad, right? And there's things in the Obi-Wan show that are just objectively bad. There's things in the Book of Boba Fett show that are just fucking horrible, right? There's obviously loads of bullshit in the sequel trilogy, right? But instead of demeaning those projects as art, I just look at them as art and then also acknowledge the problems. And then sometimes, right, it's like a pie. Sometimes the problems take up too much of the pie, which makes it bad. When it just gets so bad that you can't fucking enjoy it anymore. But sometimes the problems are not too terrible, right? or with The Last Jedi, it's like, okay, this is painted, right? It's this green painting. And all of a sudden, there's a slab of I don't know, red in it. The fuck? Why is that red? It should be green like the rest of it. That's The Last Jedi. So it's not chips. It's just, what the fuck? That just ruins the whole look of the painting. That's The Last Jedi. Rise of Skywalker is like, you get this, right? And you just rip it into a million pieces. That movie's fucking dog trash. Force Awakens is just a really worn, damaged painting. No, it's like if you had a copy of this. Fucking hell. My camera's weird. Right? So if you had a copy of this right next to it, except it was a little fucking damaged. That's Force Awakens. It's like, it's that simple. It's not, you know, it's not that fucking, it's not that deep. Just because there's a couple little things doesn't make an entire multi-million-dollar project terrible because there was two tiny things you don't like. Like, what the fuck? Come on. That's just dumb. And the problem is then I furthered down that path because everyone online would just call me all the ists and phobes because I didn't like something. So then it proved my point. I'm like, oh, so, you know, they're just psychotic in their shills and they're this. No one actually sat me down and went, just because those things doesn't make the whole thing bad. No one told me that. No one. I discovered that myself. No one online, no one in the Star Wars community can ever fucking think this way. And it's really annoying. And obviously, I don't let online shit get to my head because it's a waste of energy and that's retarded. But, like, it's just dumb. Like, I see it's either they're shilling the fuck out or they're hating the fuck out. And there's no, like, middle ground. It doesn't exist. And then the people who claim they're middle ground don't know jack shit. So they're, like, casual LARPers. It's like, am I dead ass one of the only ones? I'm not saying I'm the only one. I know there's other people out there who can think and be open-minded. Not that sounds demeaning, but can be open-minded. I know there's other people who can be open-minded, but I just haven't fucking seen very many of them at all. Because they're so polarized. And that's all social media does, is it just polarizes everything. Movies, shows, sports, politics, fucking men, women, black, white, right? That's all it does, is polarize. And it's like when you actually escape the system of how they want you to think, which is attached to one of these polar points of view, and you can actually think for yourself, things become so much clearer. And it's like, okay, I don't like this piece of this piece of that, but there's a lot of this and a lot of that. Or maybe it's the opposite. There's a lot of shit, but there's a little bit of this. And I like that little bit of this. Life lessons with Zane Sade, everyone. Anyways, that's it. Leave a like, subscribe, share. Rewatch Ahsoka. It's fucking great. Can't wait for Ahsoka Season 2. Coming out, I think, near the beginning of next year, which is really exciting. I think we're getting footage or a trailer or something at D23. So look forward to that. I'll cover that on here. But yeah, till the next time, leave a like, subscribe, share, whatever. May the Force be with you always. Goodbye.